The sun was just beginning to set over the quiet town of Willow Creek, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. General Marcus Johnson, a decorated U.S. Army officer with over 25 years of service, adjusted his rear-view mirror as he drove his modest sedan down the winding road. He was on his way home after visiting his elderly mother, his heart still warm from their conversation. At 52, Marcus had seen the world, led men into battle, and earned the respect of his peers. But tonight, none of that would matter. A flicker of red and blue lights flashed behind him. Marcus frowned, glancing at his speedometer. 55 in a 55. He hadn't been speeding. Still, he signaled and pulled over, his military-trained mind already assessing the situation. The officer approached slowly, his flashlight beam cutting through the dimming light. Marcus rolled down his window, his hands resting visibly on the steering wheel, a habit from years of navigating tense situations. "Evening, officer," Marcus said, his voice calm, respectful. The cop, Deputy Carl Riggs, according to his badge, leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "License and registration." Marcus reached for his glove compartment, moving deliberately. "Of course, officer. Just getting my registration." Riggs's hand twitched toward his holster. "Move slow." Marcus froze. He recognized the tone, the unspoken tension, the assumption. He had faced it before, but never in uniform, never after all he had given for his country. Still, he kept his composure. Handing over his documents, Marcus added, "I'm General Marcus Johnson, U.S. Army. Is there a problem, Deputy?" Riggs smirked, flipping through the papers. "General, huh? Funny. You don't look like a general." Marcus's jaw tightened. "My ID is right there." Riggs's expression darkened. "Step out of the car." Marcus hesitated. "Officer, I haven't done anything wrong." "I won't ask again." With a slow exhale, Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt and opened the door. The moment his foot touched the pavement, Riggs grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back. "Hey, what are you doing?" Marcus demanded, his military instincts flaring. But he knew resisting would only make things worse. "You fit the description of a suspect," Riggs hissed, slapping cuffs on his wrists. "Assault, robbery. You people are all the same." Marcus's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the bitter sting of injustice. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice low but firm. Riggs shoved him toward the squad car. "Save it for the station." As the door slammed shut, Marcus sat in the back seat, his mind racing. He had survived war zones, led troops through hell, and earned every star on his uniform. Yet here he was, treated like a criminal, because of the color of his skin. But what Deputy Riggs didn't know was that this wasn't just another traffic stop. This was the beginning of a storm, and the Pentagon was already watching. The fluorescent lights of the Willow Creek Sheriff's Department buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow over the holding cell where General Marcus Johnson sat, his hands still cuffed. The cold metal bench dug into his back, but he refused to slouch. Posture was discipline. Discipline was control. And right now, control was all he had left. Across the room, Deputy Riggs leaned against the desk, smirking as he filled out paperwork. "You military boys always think you're above the law," he muttered, not even looking up. Marcus inhaled slowly, counting to 5 in his head. "Deputy, you have my ID. Call Fort Bragg. Verify my rank. This doesn't have to go any further." Riggs chuckled. "Oh, it's going plenty further. Resisting arrest, obstruction of justice." "I didn't resist." Marcus's voice was steel. and impersonating a high-ranking officer. Riggs finally looked up, his grin widening. That's a federal offense. Marcus clenched his jaw. He had faced enemy fire, led battalions through ambushes, but this casual cruelty, was something else entirely. Then, the station door burst open. Sheriff Daniel Hayes stormed in, his face pale. "Riggs, what the hell did you do?" Riggs blinked. "Sir?" Hayes snatched Marcus's ID off the desk, his hands shaking. "Do you have any idea who this is?" Before Riggs could answer, the phone rang, and then another, and another. The dispatcher's voice rose in panic. "Sheriff, it's the Department of Defense on line 1, FBI on line 2, and, oh my God, the Pentagon on 3. Riggs's smirk vanished. Within minutes, the station was chaos. Federal agents in dark suits poured in. Local news vans swarmed the parking lot. And then came the sound no one expected. Helicopters. Marcus stood slowly as a stern-faced man in a military uniform marched straight to his cell. "General Johnson, sir," the officer said, snapping a sharp salute. "Colonel James Wright, JAG Corps. We've been ordered to escort you immediately." Sheriff Hayes fumbled with the keys, hands trembling as he unlocked the cuffs. "General, I had no idea. This is a terrible misunderstanding." Marcus rubbed his wrists, his eyes locked on Riggs, who looked like a man realizing he'd just stepped on a landmine. "No, Sheriff," Marcus said quietly. "This wasn't a misunderstanding." Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. And then, silence. A black SUV with government plates rolled up, and out stepped General William Iron Bill Holloway, Marcus's oldest friend and the current Secretary of the Army. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Holloway didn't even glance at the stunned deputies. He walked straight to Marcus and pulled him into a crushing embrace. "Damn good to see you, brother," he murmured. Then, turning to the crowd, his voice boomed, "Let me make one thing abundantly clear. This man is a war hero, a leader, and if anyone, cop, civilian, or politician, thinks they can disrespect that because of the color of his skin, they will answer to me." The silence was deafening. Then, from the back of the crowd, a single voice rang out. "Thank you for your service, General." And just like that, the dam broke. Applause erupted. People reached out to shake Marcus's hand. Even Sheriff Hayes, red-faced and stammering, tried to apologize. But Marcus's eyes were on only one person. Deputy Riggs stood frozen, his face ashen, realizing too late that the man he'd tried to break was untouchable. As Marcus was escorted to the SUV, Holloway leaned in. "You okay?" Marcus exhaled, watching the crowd, some cheering, some crying, some filming on their phones. "This wasn't about me, Bill. This was about every black man, woman, and kid who doesn't have the Pentagon on speed dial." Holloway nodded grimly. "Then let's make sure the world hears this story." And with that, the doors closed. The engines roared, and the reckoning began. The morning sun rose over Willow Creek like a silent judge, casting long shadows across the town that would never be the same. News vans still lined the streets, reporters buzzing with updates about the General Johnson incident. A story that had exploded overnight, flooding social media and news channels alike. Inside his modest home on the outskirts of town, Deputy Carl Riggs sat at his kitchen table staring at his phone. His screen was flooded with notifications, angry messages, threats, news alerts. His hands shook as he scrolled through the headlines. "Racist cop arrests Black Army General. Pentagon demands justice. Deputy Riggs suspended. Will face federal investigation." Local community protests. Fire Riggs now! His stomach twisted. He had thought he was untouchable. He had played this game before. Power, control, intimidation. But this time, he had messed with the wrong man. And the world was watching. Meanwhile, at Fort Bragg, General Marcus Johnson stood in his office, still in uniform, staring at the American flag pinned to the wall. The events of the last 24 hours played in his mind like a film reel. Riggs' smug smirk, the cold metal of the cuffs, Holloway's unwavering support. A soft knock at the door. "Come in," Marcus said. Colonel Wright stepped inside, holding a file. "Sir, the DOJ just confirmed. Riggs is being charged with civil rights violations, false imprisonment, and obstruction. Sheriff Hayes has been placed on administrative leave pending an internal review." Marcus nodded slowly. "Good." Wright hesitated. "There's something else, sir." He handed Marcus the file. Inside were letters, hundreds of them, from people across the country. "General Johnson, your story gave me the courage to speak up about my own experience. Thank you for showing us that justice is possible. My son looks up to you. He says he wants to be a soldier and a good man, just like you." Marcus swallowed hard. His chest tightened. He hadn't expected this. Wright cleared his throat. "And one more thing. The President wants to speak with you." Marcus looked up sharply. "The President?" Wright smiled. "Yes, sir. He called it a matter of national honor." Back in Willow Creek, the sheriff's department was in shambles. Protesters gathered outside, chanting for justice. Inside, Deputy Riggs sat across from Internal Affairs, sweat beading on his forehead. "You're telling me," the investigator said coolly, "that you had no idea General Johnson was a decorated officer?" Riggs shifted in his seat. I thought his ID was fake." The investigator slid a folder across the table. "Funny, because we pulled your record. 3 prior complaints for racial profiling, 2 settlements paid out to victims, and now this." Riggs's mouth went dry. The investigator leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to resign, today, or we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law." Riggs opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. For the first time in his life, he had no power, no leverage, no way out. He signed the papers. 1 week later, Marcus stood on the White House lawn, his family beside him, as the president addressed the nation. "What happened to General Johnson is not just an isolated incident," the president said, his voice firm. "It is a symptom of a disease we must all fight: injustice, prejudice, and the abuse of power." Then, to Marcus's surprise, the president turned to him. "General, this country owes you more than an apology. We owe you our gratitude for your service, for your dignity, and for reminding us what true honor looks like." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. And in that moment, Marcus felt something he hadn't in years: hope. As the ceremony ended, Marcus spotted a familiar face in the crowd. A young black boy, no older than 10, wearing a toy soldier's cap. The boy's eyes were wide with awe. Marcus knelt down to his level. "You like the army, son?" The boy nodded fiercely. "I want to be like you when I grow up." Marcus smiled. "Then, remember this. Being a soldier isn't just about fighting enemies. It's about fighting for people, even the ones who don't look like you." The boy's mother wiped away tears as Marcus handed him a challenge coin, a small token of honor among soldiers. Months later, in a quiet courtroom, Carl Riggs sat alone, awaiting sentencing. No family, no friends, just the consequences of his choices. And as the judge read the verdict, guilty on all counts, Riggs finally understood the truth. Hate makes you small. But dignity? Dignity makes you unstoppable. As for Marcus, he kept serving, kept leading, and most importantly, he kept hoping.